Good afternoon, all of you. So,
Good
where were
afternoon, ma'am.
good afternoon,
Good afternoon, ma'am.
good afternoon, good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
good afternoon, all of you. So, where were we basically in the last class? If someone can quickly recapitulate. Yeah, a quick recapitulation of what we did in the last class.
Ma'am, we were doing the process of communication. We completed the linear model of communication,
Hmm.
and I think we were doing the transactional model.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, we talked about the transactional model of communication. Uh, where uh, in which communication is believed to be a circular and an ongoing process. It is circular, you see. Uh, the communicator A sends in some message, which B is analyzing and giving a feedback, and so on. So it is a circular process and it is an ongoing process. So to sum it up, say we have this where we have two communicators, communicator A and B. And possibly I asked you a question. Why is the intended meaning of communicator A not equal to the perceived meaning of communicator B?
You asked for five answers.
Sorry?
You asked for five answers. So then I need at least five of your terms.
Yeah, I have five students responding to this. Yes. Any five, yeah.
The answer is I think that due to the noise factor.
Okay. Yes.
Ma'am, there might have some problem in the channel.
Okay. Who else?
Ma'am, there may be some
Communication isn't
sometimes people change
happening
their
here.
tone in a way other people take it in another way. Use
Hmm.
of tones and emotion and hand gestures also make difference in how messages are perceived.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Right, Shivam. Yeah. And who else?
Ma'am,
No one else? Yeah.
ma'am, receiver didn't understand the topic of discussion.
Okay. Could be.
Ma'am, way of thinking.
Way of?
They both have
Way of thinking, ma'am.
Hmm.
they both have different perceptions of the same thing. So if the sender is saying something intended, sender is intending to say something, but the receiver is perceiving something else.
Hmm. Yeah. So my question is, why is that so?
Ma'am, because they both have different perception. They both are seeing the same thing in different way. So they are
Hmm.
concluding different thing from the same sentence given by the sender.
They have a different perception of understanding the topic.
Okay. And what is that about? So we can call that the element of noise because they have different worldview, they have different perception, they have different ways of looking at same thing. And that is why communicator A is reality because of communicators A reality, which is quite different from that of communicators B reality. The intended meaning is not equivalent to that of the perceived meaning because of change of worldview, because of change of the reality, because of different perceptions, right? And also, as someone said, there might be a problem with the channel or something. So all this amounts to the element or the factor of noise coming in. Now, noise is metaphorical use. Noise is metaphorically used here um, to signify anything which obstructs your process of communication. Okay, so communication process can be formulated with a WH question. Who, here who signifies the sender, says what, the message, where or in which channel is the channel, to whom is the receiver, with what effect. So the understanding or the comprehension, which also takes care of noise and feedback here of the uh, of the receiver. So communication process can be formulated with these WH questions: who says what, where, to whom, with what effect. I think now you've got a clear idea of what communication process is. So we have two communicators, at least two communicators, because um, it's with only a single communicator. It's not communication. It's who are you communicating with? So we need two participants. So the elements of communication process involves the sender, the message, the channel, uh, the receiver, feedback, and uh, the noise, the element of noise. Now coming to the elements of the communication process, we have the feature of encoding, which the sender applies. Now, encoding refers to the process of taking an idea or mental image, now associating that image with words, like in this graphics, you have this communicator who is encoding orange as the mental image of orange is transformed into language, orange. So, encoding refers to the process of taking an idea or mental image and associating that image with words and then speaking them in order to convey a message. Decoding is the reverse process, where you listen to the words, create your own mental image, and perceive it. So the term communicator, then comes the communicator, the sender and the receiver. Okay, and I also justified as to why we should not be using sender and receiver all the time, because the receiver also becomes the sender at some point of time in the process. So we can, and moreover, when we are using the term sender and receiver, the connotation for these terms mean that the sender is an all-powerful entity, whereas the receiver is extremely passive. But communication doesn't happen like this. It's a two-way process where the receiver also becomes the sender. So the term communicator refers to all of the people in the interaction or the speaker speech setting. And it is used instead of sender and receiver because when we are communicating with other people, we are not only sending a message, we are also receiving messages from the others simultaneously. And that is why the choice of the term communicator instead of, or rather than sender and receiver. Now, when we speak, we observe the non-verbal gestures of the others to see if they understood us, and we gauge their emotional state. The information we gain from these observations is known as feedback. Okay, so feedback is a very important element of communication process. Then comes the message. Now, the message involves those verbal and non-verbal behaviors enacted by communicators that are interpreted with meanings by others. So, message involves verbal as well as non-verbal behavior. And communicators usually send in the messages that are interpreted by the recipients. Now, the verbal portion of the message refers to the words that we speak, and non-verbal portion includes our tone of voice and other non-vocal components like personal appearance, posture, gesture, body movement, eye behavior, and the way we use face, and even the way we smell. So, the way we smell gives out some messages to the other people, and that is why it's a non-verbal component. Is this clear to all of you? Is message clear to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Because when we go on to do non-verbal communication and cross-cultural communication, we should be able to relate to all this. So it should be very clear as to what are the other non-vocal components which we use while communicating. Next is channel. Now, channel is very simply it means through which the message travels. For example, in face-to-face communication, the channel involves our senses. So the channel is what we see, hear, touch, smell, and perhaps what we taste. Now, when we are communicating with someone online, channel could be computer, texting. In texting, the channel is the cell phone, and when watching a movie on cable, the channel is the TV. So the channel can have a profound impact on the way a message is interpreted. Now, can you say something on this? How is the channel responsible for the way the message is interpreted? What role does channel have to play in interpreting a message? And whether channel is so significant so as to, manipulate the message. Is channel very important or any channel does? So message is more important than channel. What is your take on this?
Ma'am, I think channel is the second most important thing. First is the
Mhm.
message.
Mhm. My question is, I mean, is it all right to select any mode of channel for any message?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So how important is channel?
In some
Uh,
particular messages, there should be a private channel, so
what I
that
mean is how important a channel is on the impact of the message. Does it really have any effect on the message? Does channel have any effect on the message?
No.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
And how is that? Why do you think it has an impact on the
ma'am,
message?
silly example.
Ma'am,
Can I say?
channel has not any impact on messages.
Sorry?
Ma'am, I think the channel have not any impact on the messages.
Okay, okay.
Ma'am, I have a silly example that why channel has an impact on messages. Can I say?
Mhm.
Hello.
Go ahead, tell me.
Ma'am, like if
Ma'am,
someone
for example, if the message is personal or private, we will use the private channel. So how a channel have some impact on message?
Okay. Any other example? Any other take on this?
texting someone to meet me at a particular place, that will have a
Hmm.
different impact. But if I write with a blood, then that will have a different impact. So the channel changes, the impact of the message just changes.
Okay. Okay. Asutosh.
Ma'am,
Ashutosh.
if someone has a hearing problem, then also channel changes because sense of hearing changes for person.
Okay. Now, let me give you this example. You see, channel is equally important to the effectiveness or the impact of the message as that of the message. Uh, Now, long back in the tribal belt of the tribal pockets of Koraput district, there's a district, the southernmost district of Odisha is called Koraput, and it is inhabited by a lot of indigenous tribes, a lot of indigenous people. So there are a lot of tribal pockets in Koraput, and long back, Koraput, it was famous. It was quite a famous place because of its scenic beauty and the aborigine tribes residing in Koraput. But it was also infamously famous for malaria, right? So, malaria was kind of an epidemic in Koraput then, way then. So the health department in Bhubaneswar, in Cuttack, decided to create awareness programs in the tribal pockets of Koraput. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now listen to this interesting story, and you can know how channel has a huge impact on the message. So the health department thought of sending in officials who can create awareness programs in Koraput, in the tribal pockets of Koraput, who can go from villages to villages and create awareness about how to prevent malaria. All of you know that malaria is mosquito-borne disease. And there is a specific species of mosquito, no, the specific class of mosquito, which is responsible for malaria. So the officials of the health department went, and in one particular village, they screened a documentary, okay, with a big projector, where they tried to show them how the malaria, how the mosquito the malaria-borne mosquito is bred. How it is born and it is bred. So the life cycle of a mosquito. And so the official tried to explain them that, look, these are the larvae, and this grows up to become mosquitoes, and then they bite you, and they breed in stagnant water, dirty places, and they bite you, and then you become affected with malaria. So, and they asked, now, is it clear? See, this is how you have to prevent uh, breeding these mosquitoes. I mean, not encouraging the breeding of these mosquitoes. So you must keep your place safe and clean. So one of the elderly man of the community stood up and he said, "Sir, you really don't have to worry about us, because we don't have these big mosquitoes in our village. We don't have these malaria mosquitoes. They are so big, because they are screening it on a big projector, on a big screen. So the mosquito that they represented on the screen was big, was huge. Now these simple folks, these indigenous people, could not really relate that the mosquitoes represented on the screen could be the ones that are biting us. They thought that these malaria mosquitoes are a special breed of mosquitoes which are this large. So they said, you really don't have to worry. We don't have these big mosquitoes in our village. So the point is, the choice of the channel was flawed, because the message that they wanted the people to understand could not be communicated. Do you get my point? So the choice of channel, of screening, of the projector and screening the life cycle of a mosquito was extremely flawed, because they miscommunicated the entire thing. So the choice of channel has a huge impact on the way your message is being perceived. And this is a very clear case uh, at hand. So this is a very clear case of how uh, the wrong choice of channel had a detrimental effect on the message. Okay, so the channel in that sense has a huge impact on the way the message would be interpreted, since these people never came across the electronic channels, like screening of in a projector and stuff like that. They have never come across this. It was for the first time that they are watching with curiosity, and they fail to relate that this could be the simple the small mosquito that we are talking about. Okay, so channel has an impact on the way your message is interpreted, right? Do you get me now?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's channel. Now coming to noise. So the next aspect of the process of communication is noise, and noise refers to anything that interferes or hinders with the transmission or reception of message. Uh, it could be physical noise, like there's noise going outside, or it could be noise within you, you know, that potentially hampers the process of communication. For example, you don't like me, so you would not listen to anything that I say. That is a typical example of noise within you. Since you're prejudiced against me, since you hate me, you would not listen to anything that I say, even if I speak sense, because you're biased. So that is a noise within. And noise outside could be many noises, physical noises outside, uh, or maybe if you're hungry, if it's the lunch hour and I'm extending the class, you're hungry and you simply can't listen. You simply can't stand, or you can't sit patiently and listen to the lecture because you're hungry. So that's a noise, and that interferes with the transmission of messages. So there's a wide range of noise that we can talk about, wide range of barriers which obstruct our messages, which obstructs the transmission and comprehension of messages. So when we talk about barriers, it's a different unit. We will talk about this, and I would really like all of you to get a lot of examples from this for this. And there are several different types of noises. Worldview. Uh, so most people don't give a lot of thought to the communication process, but it is actually much more complicated than it seems. Communication is the most complicated, most misunderstood, and extremely difficult and challenging process. We all of us think that communication is so easy because we have been doing this all our lives, but it is not, because what makes communication complicated and difficult are the different barriers, the worldviews that we have within us, the perceptions that we have, which could be different from other people, uh, and this creates a lot of communication barriers. So the reason for this, for why communication is complicated, is because we all have different worldviews. And worldview is the overall framework through which we see, we think, and we interpret the world and interact with it. So, so with our different perception, with our different worldview, communication becomes all the more challenging and complex. So I try to say something and you just don't get the point because you see the things in a different light, in a different perception altogether. So worldview are different level of comprehension and perception complicates the entire process of communication. And the last element of communication process is the context in which the speech or interaction takes place. So the concept of context has evolved and expanded to include the type of relationships we have with each other and the communicative rules that govern those relationships. So you do not speak the same way to your best friend as you would to a kid, your parents, or your boss, your doctor, or your police, or a police officer. So with changing relationship, with a changing audience, your communication also changes. Your speech process changes. So context is also an important aspect of communication. But there is a very interesting example to amplify the importance of context. You see, there's this how context is very important, pivotal for the process of communication. Uh, you see, you have you know who a pope is. Pope, you know a pope. Who is a
No,
pope?
Describe.
Huh? Who is a pope? No, you don't know who pope is? See, you've got to tell me yes, no, because I don't know if I'm simply talking to a wall. So, who is a pope? Anjali Priya.
Don't know, ma'am.
Pope is the religious head of the Catholics. Who are Catholics?
Christian religion only.
Hmm. So, Catholics is one of the denomination of Christianity. You have many other denominations like Protestants, Baptists, Seven-day Adventists. Okay, so the Catholics are the oldest denomination. Uh, the and these and the religious head of the Catholics is called the Pope. Because you don't know who a Pope is, I don't think I should be telling you this joke because you won't enjoy the joke. So, okay, that's context. Now we'll talk about the different types of speeches and the speaking occasion. There are three general purposes for speaking in public, and the general purpose of a speech is usually determined by the occasion in which the speech is presented. So, what is the context? What is the occasion that you are speaking? And that decides your purpose. So, the first purpose is to inform your audience. Now, whether you're informing your audience about a concept, a theory, an idea, or a particular person, you're so in an informative speech, uh, you yes, Srinath, you want my phone number? Okay, okay, I will. I have only one number which I use to call to receive calls, and also that's the number for my WhatsApp. I'll share this. So in an informative speech, the speaker shares information. Please remember that this is different from the other speech context. You have to either present a new idea, a new concept, maybe a process, or if you're trying to tell about a certain event or celebration or a particular person, you give an informative speech on a person, say Martin Luther or Mahatma Gandhi, about things which people do not know about, or a concept by defining, describing, or explaining. So, informative, the general purpose of informative speech is to inform your audience. You're informing them about certain things, certain process or objects that they do not know. That's informative speech. Now, coming to persuasive speech, uh, now the second purpose for public speaking is to persuade. So, in a persuasive speech, the speaker will try to persuade you, try to convince you, try to change or reinforce your belief or your attitude or your value system. The purpose of persuasive speech is to persuade or influence you, to motivate you to do something, to act in a certain way, or to think in certain ways. So, for example, if you're a very environmentally conscious person, you you deliver a persuasive speech and urge urge your audience to not waste electricity, water, and consume the resources wisely and economically, and provide less carbon footprints, leave less carbon footprints on our planet. So that becomes a persuasive speech because you want your audience to think in certain ways. You want to change their ideas and beliefs and act in certain ways. Now, several occasions where persuasion is used includes a sales pitch to potential customers. If you want to sell your product, you deliver a persuasive speech. You make a pitch, and for selling a product, or a politician's campaign speech, or a debate during a public forum. So all this comes under persuasive speech because you persuade your audience to think on certain lines or act in certain ways. And this is different from informative speech because in informative speech, you only give certain information which you think your audience doesn't know. For example, if you're making a presentation on black holes, to me, who is a layman, I don't know much about black holes. So that would be an informative speech on black holes. You are going to define what black holes is, classify it, and describe. So it is in this sense that both the speeches are different. In persuasive speech, you have to persuade your audience. And then comes the commemorative speech because here you need to commemorate or entertain. So these types of speeches often strengthen the bonds between the audience members by recalling a shared experience or intent to amuse audience through humor, stories, or illustrations. A commemorative speech could be a parting speech, a farewell speech, or an introductory speech given on special occasion, or if you're toasting someone for his or her success. So these speeches are short, very brief, and they basically have an occasion. There is a certain occasion which prompts these kind of speeches, and it is intended for a particular audience who are there, who are celebrating with you. Right. So it could be a parting speech, farewell, introductory, or if you are if you're recalling some experiences that most of the members of the audience have shared. So all these are this comes under commemorative speech. Is this much clear to all of you? Is this clear to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Sure.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now coming to speaking competences. So, an effective speaker knows that the success or failure of his or her talk is not for him to decide, it will be decided in the minds and hearts of his listeners, of his hearers. So, whether you are an effective speaker or not is decided by your audience. So, your audience decides whether you are impactful enough, whether you're an effective speaker, an influential speaker. And these are the words by Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie has written a very famous book. Uh, you know that? A very, very popular book. It was a bestseller once upon a time. What was that? That's the homework for you. Find out the book that Del Carnegie is known for, right? Uh, Please tell me in the next class, even if I don't ask you, you got to tell me. Now, the 11 speaking competences. And this is an overview of the 11 speaking competences, which is considered to be the standards for evaluating a variety of presentation. And who's reading this for me? Who'll read this for me?
Me.
Okay.
The first speaking competency is to select a topic that is appropriate to the audience and the occasion. An advanced speaker selects a worthwhile topic that engages the audience. His topic also presents the audience with new information that they did not know before the speech.
Okay. Right. So the first speaking competency is a useful topic. You should be competent enough to select a topic that you think is appropriate, that could be appropriate for your audience and also the occasion. So you must select a topic which engages the audience, which keeps audience on their hooks, which the audience finds meaningful. Okay, uh, and and it should also share some new information that your audience did not know before. So when students in my class are given the topic to make a presentation, I tell them to avoid topics which is which has been done or which we keep hearing about every now and then, like environmental pollution. If you do want to speak about climate change, bring in some other aspects of climate change which we possibly do not know. Child labor, and very oft repeated topics. They have this set of topics like child labor, social media, and environmental pollution, stuffs like that. I mean, this is not a useful topic. So bring in a topic which could be useful for the audience, about which they do not know. Okay. Make an engaging introduction. The second competency is to formulate an introduction that orients the audience to the topic, and the speaker is the second, and that is the second speaking competency. So having a very engaging introduction. So an advanced speaker writes an introduction that contains an excellent attention getter. And by making a very firm introduction, a very clear and motivated introduction, you also establish your credibility and identify with the audience. So, the second most important thing about a speaker is to have a very engaging introduction. The introduction must be catchy, must be an attention getter, so the audience becomes alert and becomes curious to follow through your speech. It must have a curiosity effect to it. So an engaging introduction is also very helpful. Please remember all these points while you are doing your own presentations, because you'll be asked to do a presentation, and when you are, please remember these things. You must research a useful topic. Then, when you open your speech, the introductory remark should be hugely impactful and which gets the attention of the audience instantly. thus establishing your credibility as well. Next is clear organization. So that's competency number three, clear organization. You must use a very effective organizational pattern where the main ideas, main point is very clearly mentioned at the beginning of each paragraph, and you go on to suffice, support, provide supporting details to the main idea. So the main idea or the theme must be very clearly mentioned, very clearly delineated, and the organization pattern should not be haphazard. So you have one main focal theme, divide that into sub themes, and under each sub theme, you must provide some supporting details, right? So the points are mutually exclusive and directly related to the thesis. So all these sub themes should be ultimately related to the the central idea. Thesis means the central idea of your speech. So thesis is has nothing to do with those voluminous books. Thesis here means the central idea, the focal theme of your speech. That's called thesis. The fourth competency is the well supported ideas. Okay, someone read it. Quick, anyone? Okay, go.
Well-supported ideas. Fourth on the list of speaking competencies it is to locate, synthesize, and employ compelling supporting materials. In the advanced speaker's speech, the key points are well supported with a variety of credible materials, and his sources provide excellent support for a thesis.
Bye. Good. So the fourth speaking competency is our well-supported ideas. Remember, I said that there are three criteria to an argument. The first one is claim. Second one is to offer support to the claim. So if you don't back up your ideas with evidential support, then it's not an argument. So all the central idea of your speech must be validated through mm, through evidences by supporting your ideas. And how do you support your ideas, the focal idea? By providing evidences, by data, statistics, research, studies, all this. This also makes your speech very credible and acceptable. Just saying something without backing it up without details, without evidences, is so very different from making a speech which is well documented with lot of research and statistics. Okay, so all the ideas of your speech must be supported with credible evidences. That's the fourth on the list. The fifth competency is to develop a conclusion that reinforces the thesis and provides a psychological closure. So, what is the job of a conclusion? In an essay, in a speech, in a writing, what is the job? What is the role of conclusion? Hmm. Tell me. Why do we write a conclusion? Why is there a conclusion?
Ma'am, It is a statement what we think is right after a topic,
Okay.
like what to be done and what to be not done.
Anything else that conclusion is used for? Besides stating that we are going to end, what else is the conclusion used for? Why else do we use the conclusion? Hmm. Yes. Why do we use uh, conclusion? What is one of the chief objectives of conclusion? Can't we do without a conclusion? We simply say, okay, friends, that's it for today. Bye bye. Yeah.
Conclusions, according to me, are used for binding up all our theories and statements, whatever we conveyed throughout our discussion, or speech or debate, anything, whatever or what all we conveyed to conclude or sum it up in those conclusions.
Yes, correct. So conclusions are used to summarize everything that you have already spoken. Okay. Uh, speech is very cleverly formulated into three sentences. What you have to speak, what you speak, and what you have spoken. So what you have to speak is a preview of what you will do in the upcoming time, and that is the introduction. What you speak is the body of your speech, and what you have already spoken forms the conclusion of your speech. So, in the conclusion, never ever introduce a new idea. The conclusion, whether you're writing a paragraph or an essay or whether you are delivering a speech, the conclusion should always sum up everything that you have already spoken. It is just reinforcing what you have spoken, bringing in the central idea of your speech. Yes. So, and it also pitches for the for or gives a call to action. If it is a persuasive speech, then your conclusion will be a clincher where you repeat the call for action, where you again go on to say the or speak about what the call for action, why we need to act in the way that you have already propagated. So besides these two things, so it clearly relates to your thesis, to your central idea. It sums up the entire speech. Introduction is a preview of what is going to happen, and conclusion is giving you the big clear picture of the entire speech. So summing up the entire speech, that is conclusion. If it is a persuasive speech, you need to, or if it's a sales pitch, then you have to also, your conclusion also acts as a clincher, where you need to call for action. Do this or buy this. That's the last time you tell them again. That is why conclusion should also be very powerful, impactful, so that your audience remembers what you say in the conclusion. So I think we can stop here with the fifth competency. Yeah, that is correct. How to win friends and influence people. Okay, but what is the book that I meant in this class, for this class, by Dale Carnegie? You have to find out. That's your homework. Okay. Yeah. So that's my number, and that's the only number I have. Any other queries? Anything else that you'd like to know? No? Yes? No?
Phone
Yes.
number.
Sorry?
Your phone number. I want to.
I did give you, right? It's in the chat box. I
Oh, yeah.
texted that in the chat box.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, so if there is no other queries, as usual, you people don't have queries. You're very submissive and guile people. Okay. Anyway, so you've got to find me what is the book of Carnegie that I'm talking to in this context. That's one very, very famous book. But what is Harsh? What is the one book that will fit in this context? Yeah, you got to find that. That's the homework for you. Okay. So thank you all. Goodbye.
Thank you, ma'am.